Feed me. Does it have to be human? Feed me. I prefer it with seals. Feed me. Where am I supposed to get it? The ocean. Hello, Shark Week Night 3. Hello. Shark Week Night 3 was all sequels, or in some cases actually just like an episode in a saga. First up was Shark Wrecked 2, or as I've decided to call it, Dumb and Dumberer, because that's what it was last year and that's what it is this year. It's Paul DeGelder, who's a very capable man, but for some reason keeps agreeing to do something very stupid, and another guy named Dave. I can't remember your last name, Dave. I apologize. We've thrown Paul DeGelder and Dave something or other into the ocean, and they are going to, I guess as a tribute to World War II pilots, pretend they fell out of a plane and are surviving. They never specifically say like we're doing this to honor them. And I honestly think if you talk to any like old dude who had to ditch a plane in the South Pacific, he'd be like, oh, don't do that. So they jumped out of a plane 3 miles offshore from an island, and they're supposed to, I guess, swim to land. Last year they got so gross and like waterlogged and they're getting sores and all this stuff. And I was mad then and I'm mad now, because what are you doing, Paul? You're a hot guy. Don't ruin it by being dumb. They're thrown out of an airplane and their parachutes could sink them if they don't ditch them fast enough. So they gotta ditch their parachutes when they hit the water. And they've got GoPros all over their bodies because no one else would agree to do this. There's a safety boat nearby-ish that's like definitely not gonna help them, but is there because like what they're doing is insane. So like they will help them if they have to, but they're gonna make them suffer. And it's got Greg on there, good old Greg. And Greg clearly got prompted by producers many times to be like, oh, and also there's danger of sharks, because really they're not in danger from sharks at any point. Like the sharks don't care that they're there. They're in danger from the fact that they are actively vomiting in 85-degree weather in open ocean. That's the danger. The sharks are like, ugh, no thank you. So night 1, they drifted 10 miles and now they're just floating around 13 miles from where they're supposed to swim to in like a puke pool. Ugh. So then they've got a whole nother day of just sitting around puking, and they gotta make sure Dave's not gonna die. And it's like, okay guys, what are we trying to prove here? Night 2, they float again. Now they're 17 miles from where they're supposed to be. It's just like on and on and on. And again, more puking. Nobody's eating. There's sharks in the water, but they don't care. The sharks are uninterested. This is disgusting what's happening here. The sharks are probably thinking, you know what? You are what you eat, and I don't want to be these two, because this is a very ill-advised activity. Night 3, thank freaking God. The wind shifted, it blew them all the way back to where they needed to be. So the next morning they went for it and they swam and they're done. Be done. Don't do this again. I don't care what you think you're doing, Shark Week. Don't do this to these men again. Give them something else to do. I don't want them to lose a job, but I don't want you to kill them either. So next year, no more. We're done. We're done with this show, please. Second up, laws of Jaws. The laws to follow to stay out of Jaws. It's 2. They did it again. They did it last year, they did it this year. It seems like a terrible idea, but they just sort of went down the list of different reasons people have given for why they think they got attacked by a shark, and they're testing them out by greatly endangering themselves. A lot of bad shots of Paul. They really were like, show it off, man. Experiment number 1, blood bombs. Paul's blood plus fish blood. Who will the sharks like? They like the fish blood. Hooray! Experiment 2, paddle boarding. Yikes, sharks everywhere. Bull sharks liked it. Uh-oh, run! Experiment 3, electronics. Smartwatches, who cares? GoPros, who cares? Big flashing cameras with lights, they care. A tiger shark stole this guy's camera. Like, it pissed him off enough that he was like, I will take that so that you cannot continue to disturb me. After the camera got stolen, all of a sudden they show a shot of Joe Romero, who is like my #1 guy. And I'm like, what? Put it on him. And I'm like, oh, he's the cinematographer. Fine. But like, come on, Joe. 3 nights, and I've seen 1 shot of Joe Romero. Unacceptable. Experiment 4, close quarters sharks near you, specifically when you're diving with them as a tourist. So they tried some booping techniques, and they say it seemed like booping them on the top of the head to go away is number 1. Sides, Fine, it does work, but they seemed angry. Underneath, no. Big teeth down there. Don't do that. Experiment 5, spear fishing, which is like notoriously dangerous because there's going to be fish blood everywhere. But the sound of even the spears going off attracted sharks. So like, no. Then they actually caught a fish, and it wasn't the struggling of the fish that attracted the sharks. It was like once it was dead and ready, they were like, oh, thank you. I'll take that now. Thank you so much for doing the work. The third and final program of last night was Air Jaws Strikes Back. And I had a real hard time because I could not find it on the app. I was trying to watch it early because I'm a sleepy baby, and it wasn't on the app yet. And I tweeted at Shark Week, and they have not responded to my concerns. But I wound up taping it and watching it this morning. So here we go. Air Jaws is great because they've got old school Shark Week celebrity Chris Fallows. He's been photographing the breaches in South Africa for forever. Also, cool Alison Towner was back. I don't think she has a Twitter. If anyone knows it, please send it to me. I'd like to be friends with her. They also had Neil Hammerschlag on the boat. Hey, Neil. So Air Jaws every year. This is the saga one. It's every year. It's all the time. So for years, it's always just been like shot after shot after shot of them jumping out of the water as they catch a seal. But then a couple years ago, they started dying off in the area. Like great whites were washing up with their livers removed. Remember that? Anybody? So they were worried about like the population. Where are they going? What's happening? And they thought like orcas were eating them, and it's a whole big thing. Very stressful. So I was thrilled that this special was all about finding a spot about 100 miles away where there are still a lot of seals and a great white shark population. So the yummy seal buffet that they find is in a very different place than what they're used to in South Africa, with the really deep drop off around Seal Island, so that there's like room for them to and breach. This is like super shallow waters, and it's also next to a huge cliff. So it's really hard for the scientists to get down there and actually see what's going on. Thanks to the future that we live in, we have drones. So they get a real fancy drone and they send it out there, and it's got a camera that like gets rid of all the murky glare and stuff. So like things you can't see with the naked eye, you could see with the drone, which like I'm usually not like, ooh, a drone, but now I'm like, oh shit, should I get one? Because this stuff was cool. So Andy's back, and he's with Enrico, and they're out there trying to get footage of how the sharks interact with the seals in this new area that they found. Thanks to this drone footage, they have an overhead shot of a great white in like 6 feet of water, which is very shallow, breaching and catching a seal, and there's just like blood everywhere. Like you can only see blood, but like something about the overhead shot, it's a lot of blood. He's just whipping that thing around, and you're like, oh my God. Nature! I saw a couple people on Twitter complaining that there weren't more breaches in Air Jaws, and I'm like, fuck off. This is really cool, and it's important because we're finding out where the sharks went and that they're safe. Screw you wanting more jumps. But they did manage to get more jumps because they figured out how to rig a little seal decoy off of the drone and drag it, because again, it's too shallow. They can't go out there and do what they usually do, and it worked, and they got a crazy breach, and it was insane, and everyone was happy, and the drone operators were pretty hot. But I don't know that they're that into sharks. They might just be drone operators that were locally hired and don't care, so I can't decide if I have a crush on them yet. They also managed to get footage of a mob of seals following a great white around as it was trying to like figure out where the seals were. They were like, we see you, we're watching you, we're gonna follow you, and we're gonna make sure that we escort you out of our community. And they like nipped at it until it went out into the deep, and then they swam back really fast. All right, well, that's it for Shark Wecap Night 3. I'm Shalyah, and I'm drowning.